I honestly, in my heart of hearts, do believe that Mothership could be everything that they're saying it is online. I'm just saying right now it's not living up, and a lot of what you're hearing about it is a lie, even if people don't realize that they're lying. That's the thing that people need to understand about the Mothership. Yes, the Mothership is a great club if they're being good to you and if they're going to treat you fair. But as far as the Mothership being actually necessary to your career, the Mothership is not the end all and be all of stand-up comedy. And if you ask me, for as much as Joe and his friends would like to say the Mothership is the most like the Comedy Store,
It's just like the Comedy Store.
It is.
Yeah.
even when I was doing the most spots there, I would have told you that is not true. The Mothership is very exclusive. Everybody was welcomed in the Comedy Store. So that meant people that were maybe a little bit off. There were some street people that hung out there all the time. Boone Chakalaka, who recently passed away, the late Boone Chakalaka, R.I.P. He used to be there all the time. It was like a real cast of characters at the Comedy Store, and everybody was allowed there. That's actually kind of what gave it its flavor in a lot of ways. And it gave you some stuff to look at that was just like, wow, that was crazy. Mothership is nothing like that. They don't allow any riffraff in the Mothership. You're lucky if you get on the open mic if you're anything different. If you want to know, and I don't say this because I run the show there, but honestly, I've said this from the beginning, the Creek and the Cave is the most like the Comedy Store. Because Rebecca, the owner of the Creek and the Cave, allows everybody there. And it's like the Comedy Store in the way that you really have to do something wrong to get banned from the Creek and the Cave. And believe me, I've talked to Rebecca about it and been like, we really need to get rid of some of these people. And she's like, this is what it is. And she's very clear with me. That's the way she's running it. And, you know, I joke with her that we need to get rid of some of these people. But honestly, I get the formula and I fully understand it. And I also get that if there's a night that I don't want to deal with that element, then I just don't have to be there. Like me at Mothership. I really did like the Mothership. I get along with everybody there really well. That's the only thing that I don't like about this situation is I do love all the door guys there, get along with all of them really well. I love the staff there. I love security there. I know a few people have said security is a bit much for them, but for me, security's fine. I get along with the security really well. They make me feel really welcomed every time I'm there. But I didn't like the exclusivity of the Mothership. So a lot of times I wouldn't hang out at Mitzi's. I would hang out at the Mothership until it was time for me to do my set. Sometimes I would hang out in the green room a bit before or after my set. I wasn't one of those people that was just trying to be there. Like that's the other thing with a lot of the Mothership comics. Even some of the ones that I really like, they don't do anything but the Mothership. And to me, that is the opposite of what you're supposed to do as a stand-up comedian. You're not supposed to make one club your home and just be there all the time. Yeah, have a home. My home, since I've gotten to Austin, has always been the Creek from the beginning. Yes, I have hung out at the Mothership a bit. Yes, I do love Sunset. But when it comes down to it, my home is the Creek. And I'm not saying I didn't love the Mothership or couldn't love the Mothership again, but as it stands right now, I definitely do not love the Mothership in the way that it works. And I had heard Joe talking on the podcast at different points. I'm not going to lie and say I listen to Joe Rogan Experience all the time. I don't. I listen sometimes and I would hear clips, especially when he was talking about the Mothership. And I was really paying attention during that time because I was excited about that opening and I was excited about what it was going to do for Austin. I wasn't sure if it was going to do anything for me, but I was excited about it. And I would hear Joe talk about how it wasn't about agents and managers in Hollywood. It was about stand-up comedy. And in my head, I thought, if there's any place I'm a good fit for, it is a comedy club that is just about stand-up comedy. Because for the last 20 years that I've been doing stand-up comedy, I eat, breathe, and sleep stand-up comedy. I am always doing spots. I do more spots than probably any other comic at my level. I still go to open mics like crazy. I'm going to one after this tonight. And for all I know, Joe Rogan doesn't even know the extent that things are going wrong at his club. Because some of the stuff I'm going to mention will be very specific to me, but some of it also other comics have noticed. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment just to help me on the algorithm, but you don't know what to comment, just put a knife, because for all I know, Joe Rogan himself is going to come for my neck on this one. And now a quick word about our sponsor for this video, Aura. Are you tired of constantly receiving spam phone calls to a point where you don't even answer your phone anymore? Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they make it super hard to do. So let Aura handle it for you. Aura also does so much more to protect you and your family from online threats you can't see. It's really easy to set up, so you don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. You get everything at one affordable price. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind. You can either let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information, or you can go to aura.com/TyRivera to start your free trial now. Also linked down below in the description. I tried Aura and I was surprised at how naked and exposed I was online, to tell you the truth, and not in a good way. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the Comedy Mothership, which is otherwise known as Joe Rogan's Club, because I think that a lot of comedians right now are moving to Austin because they have this picture of what the Comedy Mothership is supposed to be, or what Joe Rogan has said the Comedy Mothership is, and I ended up finding out firsthand that that is not what it is. Don't get me wrong. People have told me not to burn this bridge, and I don't really mind doing it because I've taken every avenue possible to make sure that Joe Rogan himself knows that right now the way that his club is running isn't the way that he pitches it on his podcast, isn't the way other comedians have talked about it. Because when you hear comedians talking about it, it usually is big comedians like Andrew Schultz, Pauly Shore has talked about it, Bobby Lee's talked about it. A lot of people have talked about the Comedy Mothership. And the truth is, that is the perspective from a comedian that the club knows that it has to treat the best, because those comedians have Joe's personal blessing, have Joe's number. In a lot of cases, Joe will show up to greet them and make sure that everything goes the way it's supposed to go. What I'm going to talk about is what it's like to be a comedian that actually works for the mothership. Because up until just a couple of days ago, I was considered a mothership regular. And I don't know Andrew Schultz really well, but we were very friendly when I met him. When he was talking about
the way that he's paying comics, it's bananas.
I remember getting excited because that was before I had gotten my first check from Mothership. And so I was really excited to see this check because I had done several spots in Little Boy, the small room.
Bro, bananas. It's like...
And I'm not acting like me and Andrew Schultz should get the same amount of money, but I am saying I end up getting my check, and what they pay per spot at Little Boy is $100, or that's what I only ever got paid, was $100. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm always happy to get money, but when you're hearing online that
he took money from Spotify and is literally distributing it to comics in an insane way.
It's all this money. And even Mark Gagnon, one of his co-hosts on his show Flagrant, who I met when him and Andrew Schultz were here, even he said that he made a lot of money and all he did was the small room.
I only did the little room when I went, and I did like 4 shows there, and I made money on the trip on just doing the little room.
And like I said, it's $100 for that room. And so in my head, I thought, okay, well, maybe the real money comes in when you do the big room, when you do Fat Man. So then I ended up doing a set for Tim Dillon and Giannis Pappas, because Tim Dillon had requested it when he was in town. And I ended up getting that check, and I was paid $200 to do the big room. So Andrew Schultz was talking about how much money you make doing this club.
It's just complete game changer.
But I don't think Andrew Schultz would be dazzled by $200.
Once this pay scale is out there in the world.
But whatever, like I said, me and Andrew Schultz aren't getting the same money. But either way, it definitely was not money like that. It was $200 was what it was. And that's all I've ever been paid. Recently, I did 6 shows for Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon is very cool with me and a very generous man. So he paid me separately from what the club paid me. But what I got paid by the club was $200 per show, which I'm not going to sneeze at $1,200. $1,200 is still cool. Then I ended up hearing later from other comics that they were being paid $300. And so I basically got shorted $100 per show. And that seems kind of weird for a club that they say...
Rogan's like, I don't even care if it makes money.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to break even. Think about that.
Yeah.
He doesn't need it to make money.
And like I said, $1,200 is nothing to sneeze at. But when it could have been $1,800 and you have it explained away why it is you didn't deserve to get that extra money or you shouldn't have gotten that extra money, then it does let you know that somebody does care about the money there. It's not the picture that they paint when they're saying,
I don't even care if it makes money.
I'm not going to make that seem like the hugest deal in the world, but it is an actual thing when you consider that that's what people are saying. Like, oh, it's so much money. They're giving you so much money. And yeah, maybe to headliners, but a lot of clubs give a lot of money to headliners. And like I said, Tim Dillon had paid me well enough for that weekend out of his own or what he got from the club that I'm not going to pretend like that's a really big deal. I just think it's worth mentioning. But to me, the biggest problem at the club is the booker, Adam Egget. I think he was a huge problem at the Comedy Store as well. I don't think Adam Egget knows what he's looking at. I don't think Adam Egget should have a job. I've told him that on text and I've told him that in person. The amount of favoritism that Adam shows just isn't fair. And there's no way that you're not going to eventually end up in a toxic work environment when you are not really paying attention to the stand-up itself. When other people come in town, if I'm going to do less spots, I do think that's okay. But I know the visitors that we're having come into town. And I'll be honest, the visitors are his friends and they usually do not do well. Nothing against her. And I know she's been on Joe Rogan Experience, but Kim Congdon, Sarah Weinshank. I've known Sarah for 8 years and I have never seen her kill it. And I think a good booker, Adam, even if he dated Sarah back in the day, should be able to put his personal feelings aside and say, look, this is what's best for the club.